Hello, my name is James Steed, Jim Steed, your guide at Zen-X.com. Many years ago, I had a thriving private practice helping people reduce their suffering, improve their everyday life, and reach their highest potential. It was all in Chinese, so I had to prepare a lot for each session because my language was not native, and the use of language is very important. Also, meeting people in my home office meant I had to keep cleaning house all the time, which I'm not very fond of. So I accepted a university teaching position and accepted an editor's position too. So I shut down my consulting practice. However, I retired 10 years ago, and now as I age, I want to share my knowledge and experience with regard to mindfulness, guided meditation, as well as creative visualization, because I had prepared a lot of very interesting stuff. Then I was quite successful with it then. Today, I'm going to give you a brief topic on understanding mindfulness and guided meditation. In this presentation, I will end with a brief talk about creative visualization also. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness means being present with what's happening right now. Noticing your thoughts, noticing your feelings, your body sensations, and noticing your surroundings. That's being present without trying to change anything. You're not judging, you're not fixing, you're not escaping. You're simply noticing your thoughts, your feelings, your body sensations, and your surroundings. Over time, this kind of gentle attention can bring clarity, calmness, and a deeper connection to your life. How do you practice mindfulness? Mindfulness isn't just one thing. It's a way of being that you can bring into many parts of your day. Here are just a few ways that people practice it. Mindful breathing, that's paying attention to your breath as it comes and goes, and your body's response to that breath. It's your anchor to the present moment. Another way is body scanning, slowly moving your awareness through your body, noticing tension, comfort, or anything else you feel. Another one is walking meditation. In fact, I have a book on walking meditation called Mind Your Steps. That's walking slowly and quietly, feeling the ground under your feet and the rhythm of your steps. Paying total attention to that. Another one is mindful eating. That's eating with all of your senses, your taste, your smell, the texture, and noticing how your body responds to the food. Another kind of mindfulness is grounding with senses. Grounding means situating yourself with your senses, with your sight, your touch, your sound, your smell, your taste, all going on at the present, at the here and now. Another way is journaling mindfully, writing what you're noticing or feeling without editing or judging yourself. I make this simple sometimes by just giving people some questions to answer, maybe one sheet. Try one or two of these practices regularly, and you can see what works for you. How mindfulness changes your brain. Science shows that practicing mindfulness changes your brain in some helpful ways. I'm not going to talk about the physiology at this moment. I'll talk about the results. It strengthens areas that help with focus, with decision making, and emotional balance, while calming parts of the brain that trigger stress or fear. Over time, mindfulness can reduce overthinking and help you respond to life with more ease and more clarity. Mindfulness lowers stress hormones. Mindfulness helps keep people balanced, helps them manage stress, helps them feel more balanced. It lowers stress hormones, calms racing thoughts, and helps people pause before reacting. In people with anxiety and depression, mindfulness teaches people to notice their feelings without getting stuck in them. And people with eating disorders find it helpful too. It teaches them to tune into real hunger and actual fullness, and to slow down and reconnect with their bodies. That puts a reduction on emotional eating. In general, mindfulness boosts mood, reduces impulsivity, and helps people be kinder to themselves. And that's very nice. It doesn't fix everything overnight. It's not a miracle thing, but it gives people powerful tools to handle life more objectively, with more strength and less struggle, since acceptance is a very important part of it. Mindfulness has been used alongside medical treatment for all kinds of conditions, and the results are promising. I will just name a few. People with skin conditions like eczema or psoriasis say they itch less and feel more in control. Those with stomach issues like IBS report fewer symptoms and less pain. Cancer patients don't use it to cure cancer, but they use it to ease anxiety, manage treatment side effects, and sleep better, and improve their response to the various types of treatment they receive for cancer. It's also been helpful for people with neurological conditions like Parkinson's or multiple sclerosis, improving their focus, their mood, and even improving their movement in some cases. Buddha said every movement begins with a thought. So meditation works with those thoughts. Mindfulness doesn't replace medicine, but it adds a layer of healing, helping people listen to their bodies and respond with care. There are other things that creative visualization can do, or there are, here I said added effects of creative visualization. What I mean here is you have to understand that mindfulness is a calm, alert attention to associated and dissociated states. For example, if you're associated, you're inside the state and you're identifying with it. It's part of you. Dissociated is stepping back, like in third person, going from I to he. All right, dissociated state. So mindfulness is a calm, alert attention to what's going on, stepping out and looking at it from a slightly dissociated state. Now, creative visualization is something very different. It requires a daydream-like state with lots of sensory input to capture the imagination. It's important to capture the imagination because actually your unconscious mind is in charge of your imagination. So capturing the imagination is capturing the cooperation of your unconscious mind. Thus, creative visualization can be very good. Of course, creative visualization, guided imagery, even hypnosis, they all have their effects on mental, emotional, and addiction responses. That's already very well known. They use it to build confidence, dieting, smoking, ego strengthening, self-esteem, and a whole lot of other different things. All right. That's well known. But it does also have an effect on physical states. I will just tell you a couple of experiences I had. When I first started my practice in Taiwan, some psychiatrists are wanting to see how I work. So they would bring me some of their patients, and I would work with their patients while they watched. One psychiatrist brought me a guy with social phobia. So he brought him in, and I needed to interview him. But I burnt incense in my house, and he had an asthmatic reaction to that. So he was coughing and coughing and coughing, and coughing so badly that it was very difficult to talk with him. Also, I had never seen it in my life, but he suffered from uncontrollable sweating. I mean, it's like he lifted his arm and the water was pouring out of it like it was a faucet. Well, with all that coughing, and I had him right in front of an air conditioner, right? With all that coughing and all that water dripping, there was no way that I could interview him or work on his social phobia at all. So I sent him home, and then I made a little, back then we had cassettes. I made a little cassette for him, and the cassette was a story about an old man and a young guy in a greenhouse, and the light system and the air conditioning system and the greenhouse was falling apart. Understand that this light system refers to people looking. I use them to be a metaphor for eyes, people looking at you. And the water system, I used it for the uncontrollable sweating. It was just a little story. I told a little childish story, right? Sent it to the psychiatrist. I told the psychiatrist, let your patient practice this for 2 weeks and then come back and see me. The patient comes with the doctor, and I start working with the patient, and I have a very good interview. Very comfortable interview, made a lot of progress, but I noticed that the psychiatrist was feeling a little upset. There was something wrong with him. He was quite agitated. So after I finished with his patient, I gave the patient some homework and sent him home, but I asked the doctor to stay. And I said, "What's going on?" He said, "He's not coughing. He's sweating. His asthma is gone, and he's not coughing at all. Why?" And I just laughed. I said, "Well, there was no way that I could do any kind of interview with him with all that coughing and sweating. So I had to turn them off." And he looked at me like I was absolutely crazy. But actually, that's exactly what I thought about it. I had to get to the interview. I had to get those two things out of the way. So I created a metaphor that turned those things off. Another thing, one time, one of my previous clients, who was a doctor, who had agoraphobia, I treated him for his agoraphobia, or worked with him for his agoraphobia, and a year or 2 years later, he was working in a respiratory center, a place where there's a lot of breathing machines for these people who are in people who've had strokes and they're in vegetative states. They're all on breathing machines. Oh, quite a place. But one guy had attempted to commit suicide by drinking acid. And a major hospital, major medical center here, had moved a piece of his large intestines to his throat area to replace the esophagus. Unfortunately, he swallowed some food, his lungs got infected, and this esophagus failed. And he got addicted to the breathing machine. And they really thought there was no hope for this guy. I mean, he was about 30 years old. He had gone from 100 kilos down to 29 kilos. That's how bad. He was on all of these tubes, on the breathing machine. But the doctor asked me, because the guy was conscious, right? But he's sitting there in a place with all these other people who are unconscious. So here you are, conscious, lying in a bed with 40 other people in vegetative states, attached yourself to a breathing machine and all of these tubes. That's not a good situation. So the doctor felt sorry for him, and he asked me if I would help him. At first, I had a phone then. I said, "No way I'm going to help him. The guy tried to commit suicide. What can I do with him?" So I hung up the phone. But then I began to feel guilty. I thought, well, the medical center basically put him in there to die. No one else would be crazy enough to help him. Everyone would turn him down. So what could I lose? I'm the last chance. So I called the doctor back up. I said, "I'll be up there in a week." So during that time, I made another cassette. In this cassette, I age regress him to an age of 19 years old and took him to a big Olympic-sized swimming pool inside a huge stadium filled with people. And I had him swim back and forth to the blue Danube waltz. Right? You've got to keep their attention for maybe 10, 15 minutes, so I had to give him something to listen to. So he listened to the blue Danube waltz. And then in his imagination, when he finished swimming, he'd get out of the pool, and the entire audience, the crowd at the stadium, stood up and gave him a standing ovation. I used sound effects, I think a home run sound effects for that. Well, he listened to that every day. He had no choice. The doctor put the earphones on him. He couldn't touch the earphones, so the doctor put the earphones on him twice a day. And very interesting, the doctor noticed that his muscles were toning up. So he ran to get some light weights and told him, I think 5-pound weights or 2-pound weights, and told him to practice with those, right? And another interesting thing happened. I didn't know it at the time, but the nurses, who were all laughing at me, they thought I was nuts, right? The nurses had been trying to treat his bed sores. I mean, they were big bed sores, quite unresponsive to treatment. I mean, they were bed sores all the way to the bone. Right? I didn't know this, but what happened was, within a month, he was demanding to get out of the breathing place because he had his muscle strength back, and he had confidence that he could get off of the ventilator. We call that ventilator weaning, right? And the nurses were all surprised that all of those bed sores on his back just shrunk. Poof, gone. Now, I didn't focus on the bed sores. I didn't even know they were there. And I don't understand why that happened. Perhaps with the increased tone of the muscles, they could hold the body up a little bit better off of the mattress that he's on instead of just laying there flat and heavy, right? I don't know for sure, but the bed sores just disappeared. So creative visualization, in these two cases I use guided imagery and metaphor, storytelling, actually affected their bodies. Right? So it is a very powerful kind of meditation. So mindfulness plus creative visualization can really help people a lot. Thank you. I invite you to come visit me at www.zenx.com.tw. TW is for Taiwan. All right. There you can find some downloadable guided meditation MP3s. They include both mindfulness and creative visualizations. I do them for certain kinds of people or for certain reasons. One for mindfulness practice. Another one is the Medicine Buddha mantra, a mantra that I often chant. And then support for cancer patients, people with Parkinson's, anxiety, grief, and pain management. Thank you. Peace.